Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Scumdogs Kennel. Today, we're looking at the Trindade UFO encounters. Yeah, it looks like a great article, and I thought we'd look at more UFOs and have some fun tonight, folks. But first, as always, let me share off artwork from my own upcoming graphic novel, Scumdog. So let me go to share screen, and then we'll go on to this. Here is the Extreme 90s cover for my graphic novel, Scumdog, and then we'll go on. There, I made sure I was streaming and stuff. That's pretty good. Yeah, it's pretty good there. Make sure, whoops, that. We go over here, and yeah, this is the Extreme 90s cover for my graphic novel, Scumdogs. I did this cover to homage, to take you back to Image comic books in the early 90s. My book, Scumdogs, is a parody book. The stars of my book are your classic Saturday morning cartoon villains, the Scumdogs. My book is a parody of cartoons from the 80s and 90s and any other time I want. Now, the Scumdogs want to take over the universe. They're former pro athletes who used to compete in sporting events who used superhuman athletes as the competitors, known as the Scumdog Sports. See, in the far future, thanks to magic and science, people can alter their bodies any way they want. And because of this, new sporting events are held, known as the Scumdog Sports, for these superhuman beings as the competitors. They're not exactly nice guys because they willingly traded in their humanity to become hideous beasts with incredible powers to compete for, well, fame and fortune. Yeah, because they wanted to be rich and famous. They gave up being human. So what happens when guys like that get banned from sports? The Scumdogs decide to take over the universe. They're led by Death Mug. He's the purple guy with the middle mask over here. He's a parody. He's based on and is a parody of various villains from 80s cartoons. And he's crossed over with Carlton from Fresh Prince. Now, as you can see, he's got a skull for a face, much like Skeletor from He-Man, and he's purple like the Shredder from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. But if you notice, his mask also looks like the mask of Cobra Commander, the leader of Cobra from G.I. Joe. And as I said, he's crossed over with Carlton from Fresh Prince, Will Smith's old show from the 90s. Now, Carlton was this over-the-top, arrogant little prick of a character who I always thought if he had superpowers, he'd be a supervillain. So basically, I took Carlton from Fresh Prince and crossed him over with Skeletor from He-Man, and we get Death Mug. Death Mug is an arrogant dictator who wants to rule the universe. And if you think he's idiotic and stupid, you should see his archenemy, Buick Starpoon. In fact, you can. He's the guy with the pink pompadour hair over there and the green and white uniform. Now, in contrast to, Death Mug, Buick Starpoon is basically what you get if you take J. Jonah Jameson from the Spider-Man movies, the editor of the Daily Bugle, and crossed him over with Buck Rogers. Yeah, he's an over-the-top military nut job who is also a parody of Duke from G.I. Joe because his team, the Wild Rangers, are basically just my parody of G.I. Joe. That means that they're, because they're a parody of them, they're over-the-top military nut jobs who are complete idiots and trying to basically battle the Scumdogs and usually save the day by the fact they usually just blow up everything in their path. Just complete morons who can never do anything right, but they're going to be fun to read about. Now, Buick Starpoon, if you see his uniform, anyone on this cover with a similar uniform to Buick Starpoon on this cover is part of his team, the Wild Rangers. And because they're G.I. Joe parodies, each of them has a military specialty like a G.I. Joe. Basically, their special skills and abilities. It'll help me tell you about the other members of the Wild Rangers without having to explain their personalities. This guy over here with the mohawk and the navy blue and white uniform, his name is Roadhog, and his military specialty is that he's a highly decorated soldier from the U.S. Army who was transferred over to the Wild Rangers to use his skills to fight the Scumdogs. Then you have this bald guy down here with the gun and just the blue and white uniform. His name is Beach Pounder, and his military specialty is that he is a Marine. Then you have this guy back here in the red uniform in that vehicle firing off his missiles. His name is Blast Tank, and his skill is that he's a tanker. He drives around weaponized vehicles. This is one of 3 different variant covers that you can back, so that's also good. Now let's go over here and look at Girl Friday. Girl Friday is the female member of the Wild Rangers, and she's what you get if you take a Girl Friday character and basically do a parody of it. A Girl Friday character is usually a female soldier that's in love with their superior officer. You sometimes see this kind of character in some TV shows and movies. The joke here is that Girl Friday is the second in command on the Wild Rangers, but she hates Buick Starpoon's guts. She's only there to babysit them, and because of it, she hates all of them. Then we have Deathmug's henchmen, Murder Mouth and Sloppy. Sloppy is the big fat pink guy down here with shape-shifting powers, and Murder Mouth is the blue guy with the top hat. These guys are basically my parody of Bebop and Rocksteady from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. They're Shredder's henchmen who were total idiots. I wanted my own henchmen that were idiots, so I created these guys. Then we have Hair Middle Doctor. Hair Middle Doctor is another member of the Scumdogs, but he's human. That's because he's a parody of a character from G.I. Joe known as Dr. Mindbender, a mad scientist. Cobra's mad scientist. If you're wondering why he's not a monster, that's because he was hired after the Scumdogs became villains. They needed him to invent weapons and machines they used to try and take over the universe. He does it while rocking out as a hair mill musician and mad scientist. Because, well, Dr. Mindbender dressed like he was a hair mill musician, so I created a mad scientist who was a hair mill musician. Then we have Miss Brusty Melons. Now, Miss Brusty Melons is basically a parody of several characters from G.I. Joe who were part of Cobra, namely the Baroness and the twins. The twins, Tiamat and Zaymot, were these two rich guys who would basically back and fund all of Cobra's evil schemes, while the Baroness was Cobra's top spy and infiltration agent. What does that make Miss Brusty Melons? Well, she's this rich bimbo who was bored with her life. She was incredibly rich and bored, so she decided to basically back and fund all of the Scumdog's evil schemes. She fancies herself a super villainous spy, so she dresses up in a spy's cat suit. Get an idea there and stuff like that. By the way, folks, please go and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Read comics, they're bad for you. There in the title is misspelled. It's THRE. It's there, not there. Hit that like button for me, will ya? Hit that bell for notifications. Make sure to hit the part of the bell that will give you all future notifications. If you want to see this stream again, use the link on the pinned tweet on my Twitter page at 777megachris1, and please share this video out. Now, let's go over here and look at some Indiegogos real quick. Here's Shishikura graphic novel from Indiegogo. It's made $148,430. It's still funding through in demand. Now, you can back this campaign for $25, $30, or so on for a reasonable price for each cover. But let's look at this trailer for Shishikura.
Greetings, everyone. 28-year comic book veteran Billy Tucci here, and I am so excited to introduce you to our latest Indiegogo campaign, She Sakura. Crusade Comics brings you the final chapter to the She Return of the Warrior trilogy, setting the final fiery stage for a samurai showdown of epic proportions. Upon learning that she's full-blooded Japanese, Anna Ishikawa has unlocked a danger that she's not prepared for. Her birth mother's wrath that comes in the form of an automaton-like killer bent on destroying all that she loves. At the same time, her daughter Hotaru, having survived the trauma in Haikyuu, actually feels empowered by the experience and succumbs to an inner violent streak with savage repercussions. But wait, there's more! Team She is joined by superstar variant cover artists Kenneth Rocafort, Asha Kishna, Gardenia Lima, and Jeff Chapman. We're also offering lots of other She-related items, including original art, prints, t-shirts, commissions, and special editions, including the Ash Cantor Crusade's next great adventure, John Brolia and my long-awaited sequel to Zombie Sama 2, Dorm of the Dead. So please, join us on our latest crusade and harken back to the days when comics were fun and thought-provoking. I promise you, you're going to love She Sakura. I'm just gonna smash myself in the face with this thing. I broke my bell, Scala. I broke my bell. I literally broke my bell, smashing against my head.
That's Shishikura. You can back this campaign for $30. Well, you have a choice of several different covers. You have Appreciation One Appreciation ASM cover for $20 here, and is that She Appreciation like their ASM cover. You have to also have the Shishikura Ashcan right there. So the Shishikura Rough Cut Edition, $25. Black and white edition of Shishikura using Tuji's roughs with added world balloons and caption. This edition is a glimpse into Tuji's art process. You actually have the Shishikura Blink sketch cover, which is, well, you have a blank cover and you can draw your own cover on it. But you can get this book for $25 to get the whole story with a blank cover on it. You have other covers that are 26, 29, 30, and other such covers. All of them look pretty good up on Indiegogo. So go back in Shishikura. Okay, now let's go over here and look at the Trinidad UFO encounters, authentic images of vehicles from another world. The UFO, so that looks pretty good. Let's get into this article. The UFO encounters off the island of Trinidad off the coast of Brazil are exciting, not only as they were witnessed by Navy personnel, but because, by the way, folks, please leave me a few chats. But because several photographs were captured of the disc-shaped object. Furthermore, despite having been subject to several intense examinations, the pictures have been officially validated as genuine and authentic images of unknown aerial object, adding even more credibility to this spat of sightings in the late 1950s is that they were often witnessed by multiple people, some of whom enjoyed particularly high-ranking positions in the Brazilian Navy. Here's one of not the disc-shaped object note the disc-shaped object in the right of the picture. You see it? Here's one of the pictures. There were also several other particularly intriguing UFO encounters throughout Brazil during this time, often along the coastal areas that looked out on the Atlantic Ocean, and some of these other incidents also resulted in photographs, ones that showed very similar objects to that captured off the coast of Trinidad Island. Might it be that at least some of these sightings were connected? Might the occupants of these seemingly otherworldly vehicles be part of the same alien reconnaissance mission? Much of what follows is based on the research and investigation of Jerry Clark for the Center for UFO Studies, although the sightings of the photographs of the Trinidad Island UFO encounters continue to be studied and researched today and remain valid and intriguing pieces of UFO puzzle for enthusiasts and researchers alike. An extraterrestrial interest in human activity. The sighting and subsequent photographs that would follow as a result of plans that put into motion in October 1957 when the Brazilian Navy established a base on the island of Trinidad for scientific research. The island, which is completely unoccupied, is around 600 miles off the coast of Brazil in the South Atlantic Ocean. From this base, scientists would conduct research in various fields, including oceanographic and meteorological research. Fields including those: oceanographic and meteorological. Meteorological, I guess. Meteorological. Sorry, I'm just trying to get that right. These would involve launching weather balloons each day into the upper atmosphere that would then explode, sending research instruments that would collect data as they come back to Earth on an automatic parachute. Base personnel would then locate and collect these instruments so the data could be logged and studied. Here's another picture here's another picture of what they took photographs of, However, it wasn't long before those involved in the tests noticed strange metallic disc-shaped crafts appearing in the sky near the balloons, almost as if they were monitoring what was taking place. For example, at just about 8 a.m. on the 1st of January 1958, a sudden bright light was witnessed moving across the sky, appearing like a meteor reflecting sunlight. What's more, this sighting was witnessed by almost the entire base. The following evening, and around 400 miles away, a circular orange object approached the Navy vessel Trinfo and circled it several times. This continued for around 10 minutes before the bizarre object took with great speed and disappeared. These incidents were just the first of many. Research data stolen from the skies. On the morning of 6th January, the chief of the base, Commander Carlos Bassler, oversaw the daily launch of the weather balloon. The morning was bright and sunny and largely largely blue skies. Aside that was for a single group of clouds at an approximate altitude of 14,000 feet. Although he didn't know it, what Basler thought was another standard uneventful balloon launch would quickly become one of the most mind-blowing encounters of the entire project. Breisler had returned inside the base and was listening to the signals being sent out by the weather balloon. Then, for no reason whatsoever, everything stopped with no signals coming through. The commander returned outside in order to view the balloon. Here's the picture he talked to someone looked at. At least I think. Something up there in the sky. Very weird. One of the photographs captured that afternoon. Let's get back to an interesting little photo. I think there's the object up there. Weird looking thing. I think it is. At least I'm trying to make sure of it. Let's continue with this article now. To begin with, the balloon was ascending as it should. However, to Basler's disbelief, almost as soon as it touched the single bank of clouds, it rushed upwards as if it... Pardon me, folks. As if it had been physically pulled up by some invisible force. Nothing was seen of the balloon for 10 minutes. Then it came back into view once more. Only now it was above the cloud. Unbelievably, the research instruments had been entirely removed. Things would turn even stranger several moments later when a metallic silver crescent-shaped object came out of the cloud and headed off into the distance. Just over a week later, the objects appeared once more in the region, only this time one witness would capture a photographic evidence of their presence. A gray metallic, solid-looking object off the coast at just after noon on the 16th January, the boat, the Almirante Saldana, was off the south coast of Trinidad, waiting to set off for Rio de Janeiro. All of the crew and many of the passengers on board, however, would soon notice a strange shiny object approaching them. One of those who witnessed the approaching anomalous object was a photographer, Alamiro Baruna. He would later tell journalist Joro Martins that he was making his way to the deck on the afternoon in question. Two of the Navy officers were rushing toward him, attempting to divert his attention to the sky. Among the commotion, he could hear them say something about a bright object approaching the island. He struggled to see what they were looking at to begin with. Then he caught sight of the flash it emitted. He suddenly realized just how close to the island it was, as it reflected the sunlight. It appeared to glitter. Somewhat realizing he had his camera in his hands, he raised it to his eyes, pointed it at the bizarre craft, and pressed down on the shutter. There's the object in the distance. They're, very weird and bizarre. Does this picture show a UFO? It certainly does look like there's something out there that looks like a UFO. After he had snapped the first two pictures, the object disappeared from their view for several moments behind the peaks of the island. When it reappeared, it seemed much bigger in size and was now moving in the opposite direction. It was also moving with much more pace than before. Once more, he turned the camera in the object's direction and captured a third photograph. He attempted to capture more, but by this time, the object was moving at such a speed that they were nothing but a blurred mess. He also struggled to set the camera straight as he was being pushed from all sides as people rushed towards the main deck in order to see the object for themselves. The craft was now heading back in the direction it had arrived, going back out to sea. Baruna managed to raise the camera once more, using the last available film to capture the craft as it disappeared into the distance. He would later describe the object as gray, metallic, and solid-looking. He would further state that a greenish haze of mist appeared to surround it as it moved and that there was a ring that appeared to run around its middle. Baruna would have the photographs developed much around an hour later. However, as there was no photographic paper on board, only the negatives were immediately available. Initially, it appeared as if the object had not been captured. However, after viewing them more clearly, all present could see the bizarre craft. Declared official by the Brazilian Navy. When the vessel finally set off for Rio de Janeiro, Baruna remained on board and took the negatives with him. He would ultimately develop the pictures at his home studio and would contact Commander Basilier. Immediately after doing so, Basilier would take the photographs to the Navy Ministry, returning them to Bruna 48 hours later. However, not long after the pictures were returned, Bruna himself was summoned to Navy headquarters. Once there, he was questioned extensively about the pictures and the sighting itself. Meanwhile, the pictures were undergoing extensive examinations for signs of tampering. None were discovered, and the pictures were passed by the Navy as authentic. A short time after that, they were officially released to the press. Well, interesting. Oh, here's another picture. And here's the. Apparently the UFO was lowering itself to the ground and then basically shot off to the left, because you can see where the arrows are pointing. Either it went up or it went down. So the thing was maybe lowering itself to the ground and then shot off to the left. You see the picture and stuff. Note where the the arrow point is just above the peaks. Yeah. Note where the arrow point is just above the peaks. Okay. Note where the arrow point is just above the peaks and stuff. I keep saying that because, I can see where the arrows are pointing and stuff like that. So does that mean one of them went up? Were there two UFOs? I'm assuming the UFO, as I said, as you look at at where the arrows are pointing, that you can see it it shot up in the left direction and stuff, but it was also kind of going upward over the peaks a bit, I guess. It does look like the UFO is going up a bit, as if just trying to clear the peaks and stuff. So that is, you can see that there. So you can say that. Very, very weird. Very, very weird, I have to say. I mean, that is that. Of course, you can also say that that this is a pretty good photo. I mean, the UFO itself looks all blurry, but that might be just because it's kind of going through those clouds over there. I mean, it's far away, but there's definitely something there in the photograph you can see. So there's that. Let's continue with this now. Let's read some more of this article. What followed was a media frenzy for information on the sighting. And that in itself is very odd if you think about it. They not only did when you think that the government would basically bring you in to basically question you if you saw UFOs, you think they'd probably, threaten the guy not to talk about this. But not only that, did they not threaten him, they allowed him to release the photos and even openly declared that these were officially UFOs, that these were official UFO photos, that this really did happen. This is unusual. I mean, this was the Brazilian government, so I can understand that. There's a long history of UFO encounters down in Brazil. So, yeah, I can imagine the government at least sometimes basically admitting that this stuff is real. And the American government, I'm surprised, didn't intervene or do anything to basically warn the Brazilians not to release those photos. I'm just surprised. I'm just surprised that the American government didn't do that. So that's something to consider as well. But let's read some more of this article. What followed was a media frenzy for information on the sighting and interviews with the witnesses. It also sparked the interest of various UFO investigators. One of these was Olavio Fontes. It was told by anonymous sources in the Brazilian Navy that radar had tracked an unknown object in the region the previous day. Even more intriguing, another sighting of an object that matched the description of that witnessed from the deck of the Almirante Sandana occurred less than 10 hours earlier. I'm sorry if I basically mispronounced the ship's name there or any other names and stuff. 10 hours earlier, yeah. Well, there was another sighting from the deck of a ship occurred less than 10 hours earlier. At around 2:30 a.m. on the morning in question, the chief of surgery at Rio Hospital, Ezio Azevedo Fondo, witnessed the object off the coast in the direction of Trindade Island, along with other members of his family. Even more intriguing, at approximately the same time, an identical object in the same location was witnessed by several of the crew of the Trindade Navy vessel. Leaked documents and allegations of it all being a hoax. As the weeks went on and further witnesses came forward, more and more information began to seep up from the pages of the newspapers and into the public arena. According to one report at the time of the actual sighting, almost all of the ship's navigational equipment began to malfunction. That's also something to consider. As did their communication systems. Baruna himself would state in an interview decades later, just before people began noticing the metallic shiny object off the power on the ship had suddenly cut out. Interestingly, the Navy did not comment on this aspect of the incident, and according to the writer of the article, Polio Combos, they considered this aspect of the encounter a top secret fact. The case continued to fascinate the UFO community as well as the Brazilian public in general. However, it was until several years later, in 1964, that further information would enter the public arena via leaked documents to researcher and investigator Carl Lorenzen. Carl Lorenzen. Sketch sketch by one of the witnesses of the Trindade UFO. Okay, see it there? That's what they witnessed and stuff. Very weird looking thing. Just your classic UFO. I mean, literally, just that's a picture of a classic UFO. But let's get back to the article now. According to the official Navy documents, which were the result of a report the House of Representatives had ordered of the Navy, a report that had until now remained secret, and ultimately concluded that the sighting and photographs permit the admission that there are indications of the existence of unidentified aerial objects. Yeah, I would say most definitely that is true. What is interesting is that just prior to these documents being leaked to Lorenzen, UFO debunker Donald Menzel had accused Baruna of completely faking the pictures and of doing so by using a double exposure. He would even repeat these allegations several years later in a book claiming to detail out exactly how it was achieved. What Menzel never mentioned, or more appropriately purposely left out, is the sheer number of witnesses who saw the object with their own eyes. I imagine he would. Obviously, and especially in light of the leaked Navy report for the House of Representatives, Menzel's claims would seem unlikely at best. Long history of UFO sightings in Brazil since at least the late 1940s. The fact is, Brazil has long been a country that has seen more than its fair share of UFOs. For example, in Sao Paulo on the 23rd July 1947, only weeks after the alleged Roswell crash in New Mexico in the United States, according to a report by Jaro Martins, an encounter with a 7-foot-tall humanoid aliens unfolded. Oh boy. The report states that a topographer, Jose Higgins, reported seeing a white-gray disc shaped craft that was resting on the ground on what appeared to be 4 metal legs. He estimated the object to be around 150 feet across. As he stood, taking in as many details as he could, a section of the vehicle opened and 3 human figures emerged from it, each around 7 feet tall. They had large, bald heads and round eyes, and they had particularly long legs in comparison to the overall frame. They were all dressed in strange clothing that appeared to resemble plastic bags to Higgins. On their backs were something akin to metal boxes. It also appeared to Higgins that at least 2 other humanoid entities remained inside the craft and that they all looked absolutely identical. Maybe they're some sort of robots? To sound definitely like possible robots as well. I mean, they all sound similar, so that we could say that it does sound like that, doesn't it? That does sound like that, doesn't it, folks? That these sound like identical robots that were sent out to basically gather information by the ones controlling them. Because then again, maybe they are aliens and they just happen to look all alike. But either way, let's continue with the article now. Even though they had come fully out of the object, they remained in the shade as if consciously staying out of the direct sunlight. Maybe they're vampires, or maybe they don't like sunlight. Let's read some more, or read more of the article. Higgins could hear them speaking, although it was a language unknown to him, and was more sounds to him than anything else. One of them suddenly pointed a middle tube at Higgins and motioned for him to come closer. They gestured for him to look inside the opening of the craft, which he ultimately did, although he didn't step inside. He attempted to ask through gesturing where they had come from. They appeared to understand as they drew a large circle on the ground, surrounded by 7 smaller circles. They were pointed to one of these circles, presumably their home planet. It isn't clear what solar system, planet, or even galaxy these seemingly extraterrestrial visitors might have been referring. Once more, the aliens gestured for him to go inside, but he politely declined and began to make his way away from the scene. After several moments, the entities got back inside the craft, which ascended into the sky and disappeared. Incidentally, 5 years later, sometime in February 1952, another humanoid encounter was on record. It was around 3 a.m. on the night in question. In Ittenham, also in San Paulo, where an airline pilot known as the report only as Mr. Cheskov was awakened by a huge noise like that of an explosion. He peered out of the window, noticing a brilliant blue light coming somewhere from outside. Amazingly, despite the high strangeness of the situation, he returned back to sleep. The following day, however, while speaking with his grandmother, he discovered she had too heard the explosion-like sound, as well as the mystifying bright light. She, however, had gone outside to investigate what it might be. To her shock, she was confronted by multiple strange crafts that were shaped like inverted soup plates and glowed orange as they hovered above the water of the Atlantic Ocean. As she watched them for several minutes, she noticed that two 7-foot-tall humanoid figures appeared somehow on top of one of the objects. They each walked around and looked down as if doing some kind of inspection or repair. This went on for some time before they re-entered the hovering vehicle. Only seconds later, all of the objects disappeared in the distance with lightning speed. Similar object captured on film. Several years previously, at around 4:30 p.m. on 7th May 1952, photographs of a similar object were captured in Burro de Chujica. The picture was considered one of the best on record at the time, and it was taken and remains of interest to UFO researchers and investigators today. According to the report, journalist Gerald Martins and photographer Ed Keffel traveled to Barro de Chujica for routine work for O Cruzeiro magazine, for whom they each worked. It was while they were there that Martin spotted an unusual object in the sky, heading toward them, and what's more, it was coming at them fast. Although at first he believed it was a plane, Kiffel had the sense that there was something strange about the approaching aerial vehicle. In fact, the more he looked at it, the more it appeared that whatever the object was, it was traveling sideways. Martins urged Kiffel to get pictures of the object, which he duly did, obtaining 5 in total, one of which you can view below. Let's take a look at it, folks. Here it is. Look at that looking thing, huh? It's over an island, and yeah, look at that weird looking thing. There's yet another classic picture of a UFO. I mean, see it, folks? Very weird. Let's continue with this article now. For his part, Martins would offer that as well as being a journalist, he was an engineer. Furthermore, he had wide experience in meteorological, astronomical, and optical phenomenon, as well as a considerable knowledge of all known types of aircrafts. Ultimately, the object they witnessed that afternoon cannot be framed in any natural phenomena or aircraft that he was aware of. Martins would also assert that neither he nor Keffel had attempted to derive any financial profit from the incident, nor did they receive any type of bonus from their employer, who took control of the story and the photographs. He would further point to the position of the sun and the shadow as offering proof of the picture's authenticity, going on to say that a person could spot where the pictures were taken. Yeah. As I said, yeah, the writer of this article, he should write a bit better here, huh? I mean, yeah, that a person could to the spot. No, it's just that person could spot where the pictures were taken by looking at the picture and stuff, and looking at the photograph. Come on here, be a bit better when you're writing this. I mean, I kind of skipped one mistake earlier because I wanted to continue with this article, but that's just me basically pointing out another mistake here. This is me just pointing out that there was a mistake. But let's continue with this article now. Pictures were taken and see the shadows for themselves. He would even point out that such tests had been performed by the Brazilian, Air Force. The Brazilian AF, the Brazilian Air Force, in response to the sightings, and agreed with this. Over the years, the pictures have been the subject of intense debate as to their authenticity. The pictures, though, remain relevant today. Several further sightings in late 1952. In November 1952, several more sightings occurred in Brazil. According to an article titled "My Contact with Flying Saucers," Dino Crisperden claimed to have witnessed several UFOs over 3 nights in the mountains of Angatutuba. What's more, on the third night, one of these strange objects landed near where he was camped. He further put forward that he was invited on board the craft, an invite he duly accepted. Perhaps one thing of interest to note here are the claims that Dino was told the aliens came from the satellites of Jupiter. In recent years, scientists have indeed pondered whether at least 2 of the gas giant's moons could harbor life. At around the same time in Cubatao, according to the research files of UFO investigator Annalika Santos Francisco, a truly tragic event would unfold. A 9-year-old girl was playing outside with friends and her brother. As they played through, an extremely strong wind suddenly appeared out of nowhere, causing them all to stop what they were doing. Then a moment later, a bizarre object appeared and landed nearby. The witnesses would later state that the strange vehicle was approximately the size of a bus. After a moment or two, a door opened in the side of the mysterious craft. A second later, a metallic arrow shot out of the doorway. Before the children could stand anymore, they all turned and ran from the scene. By the time the group had come to their senses and composed themselves, the young girl realized that her brother was missing. After telling her parents what had happened, they and many neighbors and friends set out looking for the young boy. Several hours later, a report was received with the police department of nearby city. They had found the missing boy wandering the streets in a severe state of shock. By the time the family arrived, the boy was suffering from severe skin burns and an extremely high fever. A short time later, he was found. He would tragically pass away. It appeared that he was suffering from exposure to radiation. I think I want to move on, okay? Simple collecting mission along the Pardo River. In the book Flying Saucers, the startling evidence, Carol Lurizin relies an intriguing encounter that occurred on the night of the 4th of November, 1954. On the night in question, Jose Alvarez was fishing in the Pardo River when he suddenly noticed an unusual object overhead. Intrigue soon turned to alarm when he realized that the object was heading straight toward him. He watched without taking his eyes from the anomalous object as it landed nearby, so close, in fact, that he could almost reach out and touch it. It was an oval shaped like 2 wash bowls placed together. Much too scared to even move, Alvis remained where he was and kept his focus on this otherworldly vehicle. Here's another picture. Why were there so many UFOs sightings in Brazil in the 50s, in the 1950s, in the 50s? Because, I don't know, they just did. They just were having a wave of UFOs down there and stuff like that. UFO wave and stuff. Don't know really why they do that. I mean, it just happened down in Brazil. So it was just a UFO wave down in Brazil. Let's just go. Though it could have been that maybe if the aliens had made a deal with the American government, that at least the Americans knew about this UFO wave and even allowed it to happen. Because maybe the aliens viewed the Americans as the most powerful country on the planet, and basically asked their permission to or maybe the American government said, some of the people you can abduct, just make sure they're abducted from other countries and not just in America. Maybe that's why they were down there. That could be another reason. But it was, a UFO wave down in Brazil. But let's continue. Then a section of the craft opened, revealing a window of sorts. Oh, Bianca Zombie. Aloha, dude. Aloha, Bianca Zombie. We're looking at the Trinidad UFO pictures tonight, folks. Well, that's what you need to know, Bianca Zombie. Feel free to leave me a few more chats as I tell you about the Trinidad UFO encounters. Here, we just looked at this one where where Brazil was suffering a wave of UFO encounters, but down in the 1950s. But let's continue with this article now. Then a section of the craft opened, revealing a window of sorts from which 3 humanoid figures left the vehicle. Each was wearing the same white clothing, complete with a hat that resembles a skull cap. They hadn't seemed to notice him, and were seemingly concerned with collecting samples of vegetation and possibly insects from the ground in which they stood. They also walked on the riverbank and collected samples of water in shiny metal tubes. After several minutes of this, the creatures suddenly returned to the vehicle, almost as if they were in an extreme hurry. The vehicle then rose into the air and disappeared into the distance. In a matter of seconds, remained completely silent as it did so. News of Alvarez's encounter would soon spread around the community and was consequently picked up by the local media. When the reporter spoke to his friends and family about just what he might have seen, all would state that he was a quiet man who was not prone to making up wild stories, and that he was a credible witness. In short, what he said happened very likely did. The sighting, however, remains a mystery. Another remarkable incident. Only a week after the encounters in Trindade Island had reached their peak, on the night of the 24th of February, another bizarre encounter unfolded in Brazil, this time in the state of Bahia. According to the report, the incident occurred a little after 3 a.m. when Dr. Carlos Jose de Acosta Pereira, his friend Antonio de Araujo, were being driven by Pereira's driver, Manuel Mendias. When their car suddenly began to shudder, somewhat after several moments of this, it cut out altogether and came to a sudden stop. The 3 men stepped out from the vehicle and attempted to discover what the problem might be. All, however, looked as it should. As they were miles away from the nearest village, they decided to spend the night exactly where they were, and then set out for assistance the next morning. As they were getting ready to go, however, they noticed a large luminous object that appeared to be hovering overhead a short distance away. Pereira would later state how the object glowed with a strange light which seemed fluid between silver and blue. They soon realized that the object was not really hovering, but was heading in their direction, getting larger with each passing second. The closer it got, the more they could make out the shape, which was like 2 bowls placed facing each other, with a gold disc or ring running through the middle of it, as if connecting to the upper and lower sections. This ring was spinning extremely quickly. The object came to a stop at approximately 250 feet from where the men were standing, at an altitude of just 100 feet. It remained still. If you're wondering about this photo, folks, I think this isn't one of the photos. This is something here to basically get you an idea what was happening with these men down there. This isn't one of the actual photos. But let's continue with this article. At an altitude, 250 feet from where the men were standing, at an altitude just under 100 feet, it remained still and silent for several seconds before it went into motion once more. It descended directly downward, coming to a stop once more when it was only 10 feet from the ground. As it descended, the witnesses could see that the bottom section was slightly flattened, and that the glow from the object was spreading toward the ground like a curtain of light suspended between the UFO and the ground below. At this point, Mendes returned to the vehicle, clearly unsettled by the events. Pereira and his friend, on the other hand, remained where they were, neither taking their eyes from the mysterious object. They remained looking at the craft for several minutes as it remained where it was, with no sign of further activity. Deciding to take matters into their own hands somewhat, the 2 men took the decision to walk toward the hovering cosmic vehicle. Pardon me. However, when they came to within a few feet of it, it shot into the air with a breakneck speed, coming to a sudden stop around 600 feet from the ground. Over the next several minutes, it moved up to and across the sky, performing various maneuvers as it did so. Eventually, by 4:30 a.m., the object disappeared from sight and appeared to have gone. However, at 6:30 a.m., 2 hours later, and almost 4 hours after they had first seen the object, they saw it once more hovering at a relatively low altitude, slightly tilted on its side. It remained motionless for several minutes before it suddenly shot into the distance, disappearing almost instantly. All right. Incidentally, before they set out to search for help with the arrival of daylight, they tried the vehicle one last time. To their amazement, the engine roared into life with no problems whatsoever. Yet another corroborating evidence of others UFO encounters. How basically your car will its engine will die, but after the UFO leaves, well, you see a UFO then, and then after the UFO leaves, the engine will start back up again. Yeah. There's that as well to consider what that could be. I mean, if this is a government vehicle that they witnessed and basically shut off their car, then yeah, if this kind of technology has been seen by other witnesses, it would make sense that these different UFO sightings would have corroborating details, wouldn't it? I mean, yeah, they'd probably have some similar elements. But now let's continue with this article. The bizarre display off the northeastern coast of Brazil. Several months after the Trindade Island photograph was captured, multiple witnesses off the coast of northeast Brazil witnessed a similar round disc-shaped object. According to the article, Flying Saucer Review by Gordon Crichton, at around 6 a.m. one morning in early April 1958, a jeweler, Wilson Lotorso, was making his way by boat from Mercerio to Papareira, when he saw a boat of fishermen seemingly preoccupied with something overhead. He called out to them to ask what their concern was. He looked to where they were looking, eventually hearing a rather unsettling humming sound that appeared to be getting louder by the second. Eventually, a machine-like object appeared out of the sky above, stopping and hovering at approximately 50 feet above the water. It was a little over 100 feet away from his and the fisherman's boat and appeared to rock slightly as it hovered. Torso would later recall that the object appeared to be made of 3 separate sections, an upper, middle, and lower. He would describe the upper section as looking like an inverted bowl, which was the color of aluminum. On the top of this section was a dome-shaped section that glowed brightly. The middle section contained several square portholes which had a red glow to them, while the lower section appeared like a bowl with the same dimensions as the upper part, only turned the correct way up, and was of a dark color. When the witnesses looked at the portholes around the middle, although they weren't certain, they believed they could see shadowed figures of humanoid entities looking out at them from the openings. Perhaps most bizarre of all, though, was the activity with the water directly under the object, which appeared as though it was being drawn up to the object through some kind of invisible straw. While the water around it bubbled and boiled as this was taking place, a resonating humming sound was audible. Here's another photo. I guess maybe this isn't one of them as well, huh? All right. Either way, get an idea what they saw anyway. But let's continue with this article. In total, the object remained in view for around 60 minutes, on occasion rising into the air above before descending once more with great speed, stopping suddenly before it hit the water. Then it would simply disappear into the distance, leaving the witnesses to contemplate just what they had seen. It is also worth our time noting another sighting around the same time on the 25th April at around 7 p.m. on the night in question. The USS Rose was sailing across the Atlantic Ocean to the United States from Germany. According to a report made just over 4 decades later, the witness was heading toward the deck to smoke a cigarette when he heard 2 of the crew members talking about a strange object in the skies. Intrigued, the witness headed over to the pair, but remained quiet, listening to what they were saying. Without drawing their attention, you could see that they were looking up at what seemed to be a star. However, when the witnesses looked at it, it also appeared to move. He remained quiet, hearing one of the GI state that he had attempted to report what he had seen, presumably the same object they were viewing now, but he had been told to remain quiet about it by his superiors. The witness watched the object for several moments, claiming in his report that he was convinced the object was tracking the ship. He would describe how it would stop, and after a while it would move again, and how it moved so fast it stopped so fast. He would eventually make his presence known to the 2 GIs. They weren't, however, willing to discuss it further, and each walked away without saying anything more. An almost identical Saturn-like object 2 decades later. Another sighting that is also very much worth examining. Here's one that took place over 20 years after the encounter on Trindade Island. It is important to note that one of the descriptions often used by those who witnessed the object close up was how it appeared Saturn-like, as if the ring around its middle bulged out somewhat. On the morning of the 12th May 1976, at around 10 a.m., while driving to Paso Fondo, José de Silva and Guerrero Conclaves witnessed a bizarre metallic speeder-like object hovering near the Juca River. What's more, the object had a ring around its middle that made it appear like the planet Saturn. Conclaves slowly dwarf, Conclaves slowly drove towards the strange object, stopping when he was around 100 feet away from the distance. The object's exterior had the appearance of bruised metal, or should I say brushed metal, and appeared to be around 25 feet wide. Almost as soon as he had brought the vehicle to a stop, the strange object began to move toward the ground. By this time, however, De Silva had managed to obtain his camera and quickly snapped 2 photographs of the object, of the craft as it did so. The object began in the opposite direction, climbing higher into the sky as it did so. It was out of sight within no more than 10 seconds. When the photographs were examined a short time later, experts could find no When the photographs were examined a short time later, experts could find no evidence of tampering and nothing to indicate the report and picture was nothing but a hoax. You can see the picture below. Here it is. Look at that weird thing. Yeah, it does look like it does look like a planet, doesn't it? With a ring around it. That really does look like Saturn. Well, sort of. Two bulls basically, upended on each other, basically with their tops to each other and stuff. That does look like that, doesn't it? Another great looking picture of a classic UFO flying saucer. Another UFO. Yeah, just a classic picture of a flying saucer. But let's continue with this article now. Brazil remains one of the most active places for UFOs today. While Brazil was undoubtedly busy with UFO reports throughout the start of the modern UFO era and throughout the 1950s, the fact is the abundance of activity has continued through the decades, with regular UFO encounters reported from the South American country today. And while these sightings are outside of our examination here, the fact is they're still happening shows that the sightings and photographs captured during these early years of UFO sightings should perhaps be viewed with a slightly more serious mindset. Maybe. What is important in terms of UFO sightings and alien encounters about this part of the world? Is it the dense forest and jungle areas that offer the chance to conduct whatever affairs brought these extraterrestrial visitors to Earth? Maybe. I mean, what is bringing them to Earth and stuff, huh? In the first place, away from prying human eyes, or it might be the fact that the Atlantic Ocean hugs a huge part of the country, offer credence to the claims that these alien entities have established some kind of permanent presence deep below the waters of our oceans. And why did these apparent observations and fact sampling missions seemingly morph into ones of abduction and experimentation? Might we conclude that this alien race that was seemingly involved, that's if you assume it's just one alien race, but let's read some more now, involved in many of the encounters we have examined here, is different from those usually connected to abduction cases, the Greys, or might those early reconnaissance missions have naturally transcended into abduction and profiling? Indeed, it is the latter, then we might ask, how far along the lines are we in this unknown agenda? One thing is certain: Brazil, along with the entire South American continent, will undoubtedly be as crucial as anywhere else in unlocking the secrets of the UFO and alien question. Unlocking the secrets. Yep, I guess so. So what do you think about that article, huh, folks? That was fun to read through. What do you think about this? Do you think these people really did see UFOs? I mean, we actually have photographs here, and we have other people trying to debunk them. But as the article says, the sightings, a good many of them had, hundreds or maybe dozens and dozens of witnesses, more than anyone that would be involved more people than would be involved if it was a hoax. I mean, if you have so many people seeing this, how could they so perfect? How could a hoaxer basically? How could a hoaxer convince so many people to willingly be involved in this hoax and basically for decades continue to basically say that this was a real incident? Yeah, I'd say there's a good chance that the Trinidad UFO encounters are real. Yeah, the sightings of these unknown craft, possibly extraterrestrial or military craft that were seen in the skies. Could possibly be that these UFO craft were actually, well, were the property of the U.S. government, and they, for whatever reason, were conducting experiments on Brazilian people. The experiments possibly being that they just wanted to show off their aircraft and basically spread around that that these aircraft belong to aliens. Is that what the truth is? Did the American government use this as a disinformation campaign, basically to promote the idea that these UFOs that people are seeing are actually just, well, extraterrestrial vehicles, but in reality, they're actually property of the U.S. government. Experimental black budget projects that are top secret and allowed, and no one in the American government would admit that they're real. But they did want people to see them, to spread disinformation and say that people were seeing aliens, possibly to scare the Russians. Maybe it was all a hoax to begin with. We don't know. Could be that these people were made to see these things, or are these actual UFO encounters? Either way, it's all great, isn't it, folks, to read through these articles? But we're at the end of this video. So please go and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Read comics that are bad for you. The there is misspelled. It's THRE. It's there, not there. If you want to see this stream again, use the link on the pinned tweet on my Twitter page at 777megachris1. Hit that like button for me. Make sure you're still subscribed. Leave some comments down below. Hit that bell for notifications. Make sure to hit the part of the bell. Yeah, make sure to hit the part of the bell that will give you all future notifications. And please share this video out. Go over and subscribe to Stitch Together Pics on YouTube, folks. Yeah, please go and subscribe to him. He's a horror movie reviewer, and you're going to love his horror movie reviews because they're just great. The Stitch Together Pics' show is hosted by the maniacal cinephile who has multiple personalities. So you're not just getting one character, you're getting a whole lot of them, and they're all fun to watch. And as I said, he reviews horror movies, and you're going to love his reviews of horror movies because they're just great. So go and subscribe to Stitch Together Pics on YouTube. Now, folks, or should I say, and then, folks, go and subscribe to Robot Co-op. Robot Co-op is like Mr. Science Theater 3000, only they play video games. They're a video game live streaming channel, and you're going to love watching their live streams. They're like a party, and it's like a party with your friends. When you're watching their live streams, you just sit back and have fun. You're going to love their Sunday horror game live streams a lot on Twitch as well. So go and subscribe to Robot Co-op on YouTube and on Twitch. And finally, folks, go over and subscribe to Creepy Little Book. Or maybe I should say, now, folks, go and subscribe to Creepy Little Book. He does his own High Strangeness channel where he basically looks at various paranormal reports and encounters with aliens as well. It's like watching the Art Bell show, the classic Art Bell show, folks. Every time you watch one of his live streams, it's just fun. He does short videos on High Strangeness, but his live streams are great. He does them around 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock p.m. Okay? You get the idea? 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock p.m. All right, folks. Yeah. So go and subscribe to Creepy Little Book on YouTube and on BitChute. Okay, folks, please go over and subscribe to my Twitch channel. The name of my Twitch channel is Comic Freak 293. Now, also, please remember to go and subscribe to my channels on Rumble, Odyssey, and BitChute. They're all named Comic Freak. Remember, I upload exclusive videos to Twitch, Rumble, Odyssey, and BitChute that I don't upload to YouTube. If you want those videos that basically run the gambit from comic book reviews to pulp culture to more more high strangeness videos, go and subscribe to me on those websites. All right, folks, I'm Chris Williams from the Scumdogs Kennel. Thank you all for joining me. I'll be back again tomorrow with some more great content. So be sure to come back again then. Yeah, I have more great things to do tomorrow. So be sure to come back again then. See you all again later, folks. Or rather, maybe I should say, I'll have some more great I'll have more great stories to tell you, okay? Great ones as well. Really great ones. So come back again then. Till next time, folks, I'll see you all again soon.